Last week, we talked about how a good man is a dangerous man. If you didn't see that video, you can catch the link in the description below to catch up to speed. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to become the right kind of dangerous with the capacity for violence and the self-control to wield it properly. Everything I've learned from my time as a ranger and beyond. Welcome back to Forged and Refined, where we hang at this intersection between fitness, Christianity, and masculinity. There are several ways that you can prepare yourself to be a dangerous man. The first thing that I'll highlight, and the only non-physical element, is to become a man of his word. You have to say what you mean and mean what you say. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If there was ever a need to be dangerous towards people that you know or that have been watching you, you need to be a man who has followed through on his word. This way, anytime you speak up in a threatening manner, people are going to listen to you. They're going to take it seriously. There's also this direct correlation between being someone who has integrity with his words and deeds and someone who follows through on and stays consistent with all of the necessary physical elements that I'll outline that prepare you to take action when it's needed. Okay, so the next element is probably obvious. It's physical strength. But it's not just going to be going to a group training class or to a spin class or puttering around at the gym as you lift and kind of surf your Instagram feed at the same time. There are some benchmarks that you're going to want to aim for that will place you in a class of strength that is not only super easily achievable with consistency, but is also sadly way more rare these days. Here are the benchmarks you should aim for. The first is to be able to bench press 1.2 times your body weight. So if you weigh 180 pounds, you should be able to 1 rep max 215 pounds. The next is to be able to deadlift 2 times your body weight. So again, if you're 180 pounds, you should be able to 1 rep 360 pounds on your deadlift. Then you should be able to overhead press 0.8 times your body weight. So if you're again 180, you're looking to be able to 1 rep press 145 pounds over your head. And lastly, you should be able to pull up either 8 reps with your body weight or 1 rep with your body weight plus 20%. So if you're at 180 pounds, that would be the ability to do a pull up with 35 pounds of additional weight added to you. Lastly, imagine for a minute that a van pulled up and tried to grab your child while at the park, and you're 200 feet away on a bench. Could you sprint full speed and stop them without blowing out your knee or tearing a hamstring or something? This is why every man should have some regular sprinting involved in their routine. But don't just start sprinting. You got to warm up. You got to work your way up to the intensity level, especially if you haven't sprinted for decades. You also want to be able to run distance and probably with weight. Each morning, I take my 4 sons on a run. It's short for me, but it's long for them since they're 8, 6, 4, and 2. And when we run, I'm carrying my 2-year-old, and he's 30, 31 pounds. Similar idea. If you were with your child and you needed to get away from danger, could you pick them up and run for a half a mile or a mile? I know these scenarios sound either crazy or unlikely, but just like some folks say about their concealed carry pistols, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Or in this case, to have the ability and not need to use it than to need to save your family and not be able to. Okay, so as a Christian man, one more thing that you want to focus on when it comes to being dangerous is the ability to subdue, harm, and defend without killing someone if at all possible. This is where something like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu comes into play. The goal of Jiu Jitsu is to subdue your opponent, to be able to grapple in such a way to choke them out or subdue them without exchanging blows, potentially causing them to pass out entirely through this process. I personally have never trained Brazilian Jiu Jitsu formally as a civilian, but I was once a high level wrestler for 12 years, exposed to all sorts of martial arts in the army, and included types of training on how to disarm combatants that are carrying weapons. And the goal of all of these forms is not to kill. The goal is to stop killing from taking place, which is why some form of martial arts is so important. But if that fails and it's a choice between innocent lives and evil, depraved ones, you need to be prepared to do what is necessary to defend the weak, the vulnerable, and the innocent. The last thing I'll call out is premeditation. The reason that as an Army Ranger we trained situations and scenarios over and over again is so that we predetermined action before the real thing so that our subconscious would lead the charge. There's nothing worse than freezing in fear when others need you to act. This is the same thing that athletes do when they run their 2-minute drills every week at practice so that they're ready when a game enters that situation. You need to think through and map out in your mind what you would do in as many kinds of scenarios as possible. Whether someone's coming in your home, you encounter a shooter at the mall, or someone storms your church gathering at the gun. All of these are becoming more commonplace. So you don't want to get caught off guard. Decide ahead of time how you'll respond, and you'll have a much easier time if the situation ever arises. Remember, the body cannot go where the mind has not gone already. If you haven't already thought about what you would do in a myriad of different situations and different things happening, there's a huge likelihood that you're just gonna freeze. So that's it for this week. Drop a comment below, something that you enjoyed or a question that you have, and subscribe and share this if you found it valuable. And until our next video, keep forging strength and refining soul.